I'm Joy Kosnowski. I'm the councilwoman for Ward 1 here in Elgin. And for those of y'all who haven't been to this facility before, a few housekeeping, we've got bathrooms, water fountain through here, library through here. There's also a children's play area, or they've got great books and other materials if you just need to go to the library for a bit. We've got snacks, there's drinks in the cooler up here, and we have 2 ways to sign in. What we're asking folks is if you'd like to keep informed of kind of things that are going to be coming down the line, which we hope there will be, and you can share that with y'all tonight, please sign up. You can fill it in on the form. There's also a QR code that'll take you to a Google form that's essentially the same thing, so it's just up to you, your preference. So kind of what we're going to do tonight is we're going to share some updates of kind of where we are, how we got here, what's happening, what we can do in the future, and we're also going to leave plenty of time for y'all to ask questions, either of us, or we're also going to be taking questions that we will be submitting to TCEQ. Before I get started, I do just want to acknowledge a few folks in the audience. We've got Commissioner David Glass, who's our commissioner for this area. And then Donna Nichols is the Bastrop County Public Health Director. And then also we've got Robert Eads, who as of yesterday is our new interim city manager here in the city of Elgin. And we've also got City of Elgin, Kaylee Fry, who's our EDC interim director in the back as well. Behind the camera, we've got Corbett Jones and his wife Anna Rao, and they've been instrumental in helping get ready for this community meeting, as well as really trying to grease the wheels to get something going with what we've all been dealing with. So, what have we all been dealing with? I think for those of y'all, I've been an Elgin resident since about 2018, and I realize there's probably a lot of folks in here who resided either here in Elgin or in Bastrop County a lot longer than that. Before Darling Ingredients, it was called Griffin Industries. The plant essentially takes byproducts of animals, chicken facilities, that sort of thing, makes pet food, other sort of materials that you render. I mean, it's a great process, right? It was Griffin Industries, probably started in maybe the 50s. And what I've gathered from talking to folks who've lived here longer than I is that it's been here a long time. There's been occasional flare-ups here and there, but the sentiment seems to be that it's gotten worse over time. And I know I have noticed that where, I think in early June, I remember being at the Elgin pool with my son, and I smelled the stench, and we both smelled it, and I said, it's time to go home. So we cut our night short at the pool and went home. I think a lot of people probably have very similar experiences. So really, we're here tonight, we're gonna share some updates. But in essence, we just want Darling to be a good neighbor, right? We have our properties, we want to enjoy our properties, we want to enjoy our backyards, we want to sit on our patio, we want to go to our parks, to our pools, and be able to just have a good quality of life with a multinational corporation also doing what it needs to do to stay in compliance. We've invited TCEQ tonight, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. They were not able to come, but they have been invited. I have also reached out to Darling to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with them. So I just want y'all to be aware that is also happening. But last but not least, I do want to give huge kudos to Public Citizen, which is a nonprofit organization that works a lot with advocacy around pollution, environmental regulations, and Catherine Guerra is here tonight. She's going to be kind of our main superstar in terms of telling us all of the things that is not in our vernacular. We don't read TCEQ laws all the time. We don't necessarily understand the process, and she's been instrumental in helping me and corporate really understand the process and get us to where we are here today. And then Adrian Shelley is also in the back He's also with Public Citizen, so I just really want to give them just a huge thank you because they've been just wonderful. We could not do this on our own. And also, lastly, feel free to make yourself home in the comfortable chairs. There's a few more chairs, open chairs up here too, so don't be shy, but yes, feel free to spread out. Let's see, did I miss anything in opening remarks? I know a lot of y'all in the audience. I apologize for not saying hello to everybody, but thank you for coming if I know you. Thank you for coming if I don't know you. I would love to know you. Thank you for making your voice heard. And I think we'll go ahead and get started.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay. I'm Catherine Guerra, and I am with Public Citizen. Public Citizen is a nonprofit advocacy organization that champions the public's voice in the halls of power. We are based in Austin, and so we came over after we heard Councilwoman Wisnowski at the TCEQ meeting that happened in July. So I want to talk about first a few things. I'm going to go over the enforcement action that happened against Darling Ingredients in 2024. And then we're going to talk about the 5 new violations that have occurred since July. And then we're going to talk about some ways that you as residents can continue to be engaged and stay informed, and if necessary, make complaints to the TCEQ against Darling. First I want to just tell you a little bit about my background. As Joy mentioned, environmental advocacy is something that Public Citizen does. It's also something that I've been doing for about 17 years in the environmental space. I've worked for the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and I've worked for the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and I'm also a grassroots organizer. So I've been where you've been on sort of a different issue. And so I can help you interface with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality along the way in a really effective way. So that's our goal as Public Citizen. So first I'm going to talk through the 2024 enforcement case. In July, September, the TCEQ started going out to Darling to respond to various odor complaints. When they had several investigations, they made their findings, and there are 2 levels of violations at the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ. The first is sort of what we call like a warning, like a slap on the wrist. It's called a notice of violation. Hey, I'm letting you know this is a problem at your facility, and if you fix it within this prescribed amount of time, nothing happens, right? You're notified, you resolve it, tell us that you resolved it, and we'll consider it resolved. The next is more serious, and it is enforcement action. It is a legal process that the state initiates against a regulated entity. So as a permit holder, as a corporation, Darling applied for a permit. They're bound by the terms of that permit by state and federal air quality laws. So they obtained a permit, but they didn't abide by it. And so they went to what is called enforcement. And the attorneys at the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality had them sign an agreement that says, these are the things that we found you in violation for. The first was excessive emissions of H2S, which is pretty serious. It was at 5 times the legal limit at the property line. Their permit doesn't allow that, so it's a violation. The second was odor. And to be considered nuisance odor, an investigator who's been trained by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality has to observe it. And so it's very frustrating sometimes when you're like, hey, it's 8 o'clock in the morning and I smell it. And the TCEQ can't get out there until 4:30 in the afternoon. And by then, the wind has shifted and they've completely stopped doing whatever they were doing that makes the smell. And the investigator says, smells fine to me, and they go home, right? And so with these notices of violation, if it is egregious enough, and if it comes to the level that an investigator says, hey, you're in violation of your permit, you're creating a nuisance condition for your neighbors, they're going to send you to enforcement. And what that required was several things of Darling. So first they have to agree, and it's in their agreed order, and I wanted to just refer you to the QR code, which we'll share at the end of the meeting. The QR code is a number of resources for you. It has the agreed order so that you can read what it is that Darling's being required to do. It also has the odor control plan that they were required to submit to the state that we did a public records request on and got and put on our website so that y'all can have it and read it and understand what are they now telling the state agency that they're going to do to resolve the issue. And then the third is the new violations that I'll talk about here in just a minute. So the QR code allows you to enter your contact information. If you have a question, you can also put it there, and we will direct it to the TCEQ, or we will direct it to Darling, and we will respond to you via email when they respond to us. So the QR code, if you want to take it down, it's also on the agenda. So if you didn't get one, there's plenty of agendas back there still, and it's on the stand. So the QR code is going to be where you'll find all these documents that I'm about to talk about. So the enforcement case required them, as I said, to first of all, submit an odor control plan, which they did. There were several things, not anything that really stood out to me, but essentially there were a couple of places where Darling said, you know, we do take these chicken pieces products that we receive and we receive them on the ground, right? And so that could be a place where the smell could be coming from. We've identified some issues with our scrubbers and our wastewater ponds. That could be where the smell could be coming from. We've hired a consultant to help us to identify various parts of our process. We can't really figure it out, but these are the things that we are going to do to try to address the smell. So the other thing that the TCEQ required them to do is to create a place for resident complaints, which is a duplicative process to what the TCEQ already offers folks. And so if you go on the TCEQ's website, you can submit a complaint, and I'm going to walk you through how to do that here in just a second. And it's a very easy, simple process. If you do the same thing to Darling and you go call their hotline, we had Corbett call and try to make a complaint and just to see what happened, and nothing. And so I think I read in the news story that came out yesterday that there's a gentleman with Darling that's offering his phone number. You know, call me up and let me know. I would recommend to you, based on a lot of experience, that you complain to the TCEQ. They have to document it, that you called. They provide as much, or they take, the TCEQ's form takes as much information as you're willing to provide. And if you choose to provide your address, because that's where you're smelling the smell, it is held confidentially. Darling may say, hey, we want to know where the smell's coming from. So where do you live? What's your address? You may not feel comfortable disclosing that information, and that's wholly up to you. But there are going to be offered to you two processes, two avenues to report these complaints, and I'm going to recommend firmly that you report any violations, what you believe to be odor nuisance violations or other environmental violations, directly to the TCEQ. And I've linked how to submit a complaint to the TCEQ in that forum where we have the QR code. So we talked about the odor control plan, which you can find, the compliance hotline. Let's talk about the compliance period. So after the state says, hey, Darling, we're sending you to this court action, and you have 30 days to submit to us your odor control plan. You have 30 days to submit to us, which is not really 30 days because they received these violations in September of 2024. They've had a year now. So now they need to tell the TCEQ, we've resolved these issues, the excessive H2S emissions, and the odor nuisance problem. And then they have to do what's called certify. They have 45 days to send the TCEQ a certified letter demonstrating with receipts and documentation how they've resolved this issue. Those 45 days have passed, and here we are. And so right now they're in essentially a grace period, and so we are following up with the TCEQ's enforcement team, because enforcement is a separate team than your local investigators. We wanted these enforcement folks to know there are investigators still going out almost every single day to respond to odor nuisance complaints at the facility, and we need to make sure that it's not deemed that they're in compliance with that odor nuisance problem if they haven't truly actually resolved it, no matter what they say, right? The community has the ability to reach out to the investigators or to the enforcement staff and let them know. These are the issues that we're still experiencing here. which they are now well aware of. So let me talk about what has happened since Darling Ingredients went to TCEQ Commissioners Court in July. Since July, there have been 106 environmental complaints against that facility. And as a result of that, last week, the TCEQ issued 5 additional violations to Darling. And so they are the slap on the wrist kind of a violation. Hey, get it resolved, let us know you've resolved it. They have until mid-October to demonstrate that they have resolved it, but you can find the list of those violations online. But I'll just give you a couple. They were failure to adhere to the maximum hourly production rate. So they're doing more than their permit allows them to do. It's just a violation at this point. If it continues and there's consecutive violations and they go out again, then they can take additional enforcement action. But these are just violations at this point. And we'll talk a little bit about this, but because they're in compliance, they're in their compliance period where they have some time to demonstrate to the agency, or had, I should say, the TCEQ is not going to send them to enforcement for something they're already in enforcement for. And that is the agency's policy. It is a policy that we take issue with. And that we are going to continue to engage the agency about. Because if I was driving my car 85 miles down 35 and I got pulled over, and then I went a little ways and I got pulled over doing 85 again, I'd get 2 tickets, right? And so they are still in violation of their permit, and the remedy is additional penalties and enforcement action. And so the next violation they received was failure to measure the liquid flow rate, failure to correct the pH value of their scrubber, failure to monitor the pH levels of 2 different scrubbers. And so, like I said, those are linked on the QR code. You can read them, you can download them. We will be following up with the TCEQ to make sure that they come into compliance by the compliance deadline on those violations. And so the next thing that we kind of wanted to share was how to submit a complaint to the TCEQ. So, do you mind if I use your computer, Anna? Is that okay? So, are you connected to the Wi-Fi?
I am.
And see the menu. Does anybody need that agenda? Oh, it is the Google Chrome. Oh, that's what it is. Go ahead. All right. Part of it. Yeah.
You like this?
All right, so you can just go to the QR code and
Yes.
follow the link, or
Can you put that QR code that you just scanned on back up here, the one that you did from,
I sure will at the end of the meeting. Yep,
okay,
I sure will.
not the one, not this one.
It's the same one.
The same one.
Oh,
It's the same one.
okay.
Yep, it's on the agenda and it's at the front door. So if you just want to scan it on your way out, that's okay too. So let's say you're in the neighborhood and you smell something and you know that you believe that it's coming from Darling. You will go to that link, or you can just Google TCEQ submit a complaint, and it will take you to this form, and you can say report a problem to the TCEQ. This is not a 24-hour emergency response line. That's something completely different. So here it's going to ask you, what is the nature of your concern? We're going to scroll down to this one that says air. If it's an air issue, There's also wastewater at that facility, so maybe a different type of concern that you have. And then you'll go next. We're gonna say, this one's odor. We're gonna go next. And if you know, sort of unknown, you can say, I don't really know what it is, or I can say, oh, it's the smell of rendering this process that Darling does, right? So it's, and we'll go next. There's about 8 questions in this. They're gonna ask you to briefly describe the issue. So strong odors. I can't talk when people are watching. Strong odors from an animal rendering facility. Now this next question, number 5, is really important. If you feel any negative health effects, you should be sure to communicate them to the TCEQ, because when they are prioritizing these types of odor complaints that it just smells funky over here, I'm gonna, go away, versus I'm having difficulty breathing. I feel lightheaded. I feel nauseous. I got a headache. I'm sick, or my children are sick, or we are experiencing some other type of what you believe is a health impact. You need to communicate it here in number 5. It makes a difference to the agency, and it's important. Number 6, what do you believe is the source of this issue? If this is a regulated entity, you can provide the facility name, which we know to be Darling Ingredients Bastrop. You can also, when you go to download the agreed order or any of the documents that I've linked for you, in that you can get the facility number. It starts with an RN. So it's a regulated entity number. You can put that in there. They're going to be pretty familiar with this when they receive this complaint. So Darling Ingredients could be all that you need to include. If, say, we were talking about a facility that had some visible emissions coming out, something's going very, very wrong at this facility, and you wanted to capture a video or a photograph, if there's some wastewater that's spilling from the facility and you happen to catch a picture of it, you can actually upload that photograph here on number 7. We're going to skip that and just say next.
Can you use the address of the facility?
You may use the address of the facility, yes. You can use latitude, longitude, any of those will help.
And as far as pictures are concerned, we're not going to run into legal problems ourselves. I know in some states, reporting facilities can be an issue.
I'm not an attorney. I'll just preface this statement with this. As long as you are in a public place, as I understand it, you're free to record what's happening from, say, a public roadway. We do not encourage you to trespass on their property, any of that. So yeah, it's really hard to take a video of smell. So if you see something, obviously take photographs, but otherwise you probably won't. We're going to say that this violation occurred today. When you went, as soon as you're able to report it, we encourage that you do, because that's when the investigator gets notified about it. If some time goes by and you say, well, I was over there 3 or 4 days ago and it smelled a little funny, when they go out there, it's likely that it's not presently happening. They're not going to catch them, and they're probably not going to issue them any sort of violation or enforcement. We're going to see the issue still occurring, or if not, when did it last occur? This is where you put the address or description of where the facility is. So we're going to say Darling Ingredients. You can put the latitude and longitude. You don't have to get technical. They know all about where this facility is. And then you pop in your zip code here, and then we'll go scroll down here to not Baylor, Bastrop County.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I normally, when I do this, because raise your hand if you've done this a bunch, I usually put my address
Yeah.
to show which place that I'm smelling.
Yeah.
Right. And you can, if that's what, yes, and
Yeah.
you can, if that's where you're experiencing it.
Yeah.
And, you're 11 miles away, or, significantly far from the facility, that's where the investigator's gonna probably come.
Yeah, it makes way more sense to say, well, you're smelling, and not,
Yes.
not accusing them.
Right, and so where is it occurring? Some folks don't feel comfortable putting their address, and you can just say, I know what it is, I know it's Darling.
Couldn't we just say the name for it?
You can absolutely be just, and that's why it's just a sort of an informational box, and not a populated address that has to confirm with like a Google or something like that. But yes, where is it occurring? So you can put your neighborhood.
Cedar Hills.
Cedar Hills.
So
Yes, and the zip code. And the investigator may reach out to you to say, okay, where in Cedar Hills, you know? And then you go next. And then this is where you can either tell the TCEQ, you know, where you live. They may not be able to contact you if you don't give them a phone number or an email address. You say, no, don't contact me at all. I want to let you know about it, but I don't want to be contacted. You can also contact me with updates and send me the final investigation report. This means any action that the TCEQ takes on this facility, they're going to let you know about it. And so there was a letter that came out last week, or earlier this week, and if you were one of the complainants in that investigation, you received a copy of that letter. And that's a little bit of assurance that the TCEQ did actually go out there. They did conduct several investigations. They did have investigations, and they're making you aware of it. And so then you would go to next. And then the final question is just how to reach you. And so, like I said, this link is there for you. It's a very straightforward form. If you're not near a computer, they also have a hotline, like a reporting hotline. You can call the local investigation office here, which is the Austin Regional Office of the TCEQ, and they will be able to send an investigator out. So let me go back to this presentation. This is the QR code. So if you want to take a snap of it real quick, I'm going to let you go away.
That's the same one that's on the sheet.
Yes, sir, it is the same one that's on the sheet.
Let me ask you a question. I just don't know why I know they applied to amend the permit. It's just like,
Right, so that's something that I was just about to share. So, for a reason that we don't yet know, Darling Ingredients has applied as of the 5th of September to amend this very air quality permit that complaints are being made against, which is an interesting development because it allows you, the public, significant opportunities to let the TCEQ know how this permit operator is operating, right? And so what happens with a permit is the applicant is amending it, so they've already got this authorization and it hasn't expired, it was just renewed 2 years ago. And they're gonna change it in some way. Maybe they're gonna increase emissions, or maybe they're gonna change their process in some way. We'll find out very soon because all of it is posted on the TCQ's website, and I've linked it to that QR code. So it is the very last link under community resources, and it says new public input opportunity, right? And so the TCQ looks at that application to determine if it is administratively complete. Once it is deemed administratively complete, they do a technical review on it, and they open it up to public notice. That means Darling has to put a copy of their permit application at the library, and you can come and look at it, or you can look at it online. It's online as well. But they have to notify the public that they are changing their permit. It also opens up a 30-day public comment period, where you, the public, can submit written comments to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and they go into a database that the staff at TCEQ has to look at before they can approve the permit amendment. And the executive director of the agency has to respond to every single issue that has been brought up in those comments. It's an exceptional public input opportunity. But the best part is that you can actually request a public hearing. Public meeting, let me clarify, public meeting. And the format of a public meeting is that Darling sits here, the TCEQ sits there, and you get to ask them questions. And then you get to give verbal testimony about the impact this facility is having on your enjoyment of your property, your life, your health, all of those aspects, and let the TCEQ know that this facility continues to be the problem neighbor that it is. And so that we just found out about. We will continue to keep you updated if you sign up for these updates. We will let you know not only when the public comment period opens, but we will give you example comments that are things that are within the purview of the TCEQ. Sometimes they'll respond to comments and they'll say, that's not us at all. We don't deal with trucks on the highway. Don't complain about the trucks on the highway to us. That's not anything that we can address. We can give you the comments that are going to resonate with the TCEQ, and ultimately the agency, the executive director, and the commissioners have to approve this permit. Your council member was at the commissioner's agenda meeting and told them exactly how this facility was operating. And one of the commissioners said, neighbors do not deserve to have to live like this. And so I think that they understand what it is. And when they're considering amending and changing this permit, when they haven't come into compliance from the 2024 issues, and now there are new 2025 violations, and the situation is ongoing, that's a consideration that the agency is going to have to take. So those are the updates that we had for you this evening. We want to open it up to public, questions. And I see that you already have a question. What format do you just want to take? Yeah,
I think
raise
just
right.
popcorn style, if you have a question or comment, just feel free to put your hands up.
And then if we have some questions online, Corbett, I think you're going to just let us know. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, so we have ongoing violations from 24.
Yes.
Why was there never any enforcement on that? Where's the enforcement part stepping in?
So Darling was fined $40,000, and they were made to come into a legal agreement with the state of Texas. Now, if they violate that legal agreement or they do not come into compliance, most of you who have ever dealt with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality may know, they're pretty business friendly. And they give folks a little bit of extra time, but there is a certain point at which they may send them to additional enforcement action if, it goes on and they can't get these issues remedied. They, I believe, paid a portion of the $40,000. Let me double check on that for you because I don't want to misquote. Sometimes they'll offer a deferral, so, they're making efforts to resolve the issues. They may defer some portion of the $40,000. Small businesses, they may allow them to make, payments. But Darling is a $4 billion company, so that's not them, right? They have the ability to invest and fix it if they wanted to. Go ahead.
Have you, are you able to, or have you, PIR the actual, comments to understand, the dates or the complaints that are coming in to TCQ? Because I'm just thinking in terms of, I'm no meteorologist, but I am assigned, to map in the actual dates with weather patterns, because I know a lot of it has to do with humidity, and that's why it's been exceptionally worse over the summer. And so, I could easily, map the dates and pull the weather that's necessary to look at wind directions and humidity and stuff. But I think that that's a key part of it, and I think that would be probably important information to take whenever they're asking to come back for the new permit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the investigation report, what you'll receive is probably limited because the TCQ holds confidential
Yes.
the complainant's information.
Yes, well, but just in terms of if you might be able to request just dates, right, the frequency.
That's online. So
Okay.
those are online, they're linked in that QR code, and
Okay.
all you have to do is go to the violations
And I'll
and
do a
it's
program
over.
about mapping. Okay.
Yep. Yes, go ahead.
For you. So what are the hours we're supposed to be doing? Because I noticed, last night, I left my office across the street from this building, and at 7 o'clock, and it was disgusting. The smell was so bad.
Yeah.
I got to Cedar Hills, and it wasn't that, it still was bad, not as bad, but, so obviously it's wind stuff. But I'm sure most of us in Cedar Hills can say that at 7 o'clock in the morning and at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, that's when it's really bad.
That's the
Okay.
humidity, I guess.
Well, and that's when they're what, are they supposed to be doing stuff at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night?
So I do not know their hours of operation, but as the council member said, she's requested a sit down. We are gonna take any questions that we can't answer tonight on the company's behalf directly to them and say, these are the questions community has.
That's a good question to ask.
And that's a great question to ask. So what are the hours that you're operating?
Yeah, my understanding is that it's related to that.
The city was next and then we'll go to
Oh, I just
Commissioner.
wanted to, we file multiple complaints.
You can, yes.
Dude,
I believe that if you smell it in the morning and you report a complaint and then later that day you smell it again, yes, I believe that you should report it. Do I think that you should go in there and just hit enter?
No.
But yes, absolutely, because To be quite clear, what Darling is doing is illegal. They are not supposed to be creating a nuisance odor. It is a violation of their permit. Every incident is a violation of their permit. And they got so many complaints that TCQ started lumping all of the complaints together by day. And so every day now is an incident. And since they've closed this most recent batch from July 1st until September last week, I think the 18th, there will be now a new batch of investigations and it'll start all over again. And so, yes, every time, I think we had 27 was the most in one day. It must have been particularly egregious. Commissioner?
Yes, you mentioned earlier about they need to certify that they've completed their improvements.
Right.
Has that been certified? You weren't quite clear about that.
I don't know, and I believe that if they did certify that it was resolved, I don't think the TCQ would accept it because there are presently outstanding violations of the facility, which means they're not in compliance with like number 1A of you must operate in compliance with all of your operating requirements. The gentleman back here?
Yes, ma'am. So what is the actual state law? Do you know what code it is, what it is, where it is in code?
Yes, it's 30 Texas Administrative Code, and I can give it to you. It is also in the Texas Health and Safety Code, Chapter 382.003, Paragraph 12. And if you download this document, this agreed order, it refers to each violation by its state law code. So, yes.
Also, she's right. So they're doing it at night, because I live in McDade on 2336 or very close to it, and I pass by there all the time. And they're doing it on weekends, because so during the weekends is when they render the stuff down, but then the trucks come and get it during the week. That way, when TC or Q comes by, hey, we're just trucking it out. They're cooking it during the weekend. I know that for a fact, because you can see by all the 1,000 buzzards that have congregated there because they think there's something there to eat.
Yeah.
So that it is being.
I believe that that's defined in their process as receiving.
So are we not supposed to be selling it at all? Is that what everybody is expecting?
It should not leave the property line. And so the fact that this, like here downtown is, I think 11 miles or so?
Yeah.
As the crow flies.
That's really far for that, that's not.
I smell that coffee dolphins in Nashville.
Yeah, we smell those.
So with all of this inspection, I'm assuming that they're using instruments to find out what exactly it is that we are inhaling into our bodies, because noxious fumes, what exactly are we breathing in? Because it affects
If I could,
the body.
add on to this, I have been their worst enemy from Cedar Hill. Over 200 reports.
Yes, yeah.
They know how to dodge, they know how to use the system. They're only measuring one measure, H2S. How would you like to hear the chemical stew they work with?
Yeah.
Methyl mercaptan, dimethyl, and trimethyl sulfide. The most significant odor-causing ones are ammonia and 3. Very strong odor that can cause respiratory damage. Amines, trimethamine, pyrazine, dimethylprazine, and aldehydes. They're only controlling the first one.
So their permit may not require them to monitor for all of the, so that's a great comment for that permit amendment, right? So that's something that we should definitely consider. Is there some sort of continuous air monitoring that they can put at the property line that would detect potentially some of these emissions, especially the ammonia and the H2S and those sorts of more noxious smells? And so that's a great comment for the permit amendment, and I'll definitely make a note of that. Yes, sir.
Is there no instrumentation or is there no company that the county could hire to say, we'll set up shop, couple, 4 or 5 points. That's, okay, this company is certified by the EPA, our instruments are, verified, measure all this. Is there no one that does this? I feel like this should be pretty straightforward in the 20th century. Right.
So there are emissions monitors that can be purchased for, some of them are relatively inexpensive. They can get very fancy and very high tech. They'll monitor for a certain set of emissions like particulate matters, VOCs, NOx, hazardous air pollutants, and those sorts of things. If there is an entity or a governmental entity that has those monitors and that they match the pollutants that this facility is emitting, that they would be willing to loan or deploy, that could be helpful and beneficial if you could find somewhere to put them along the property line. But anytime that the TCEQ comes out, they are also checking around the property, and that's how they were able to determine that violation about the H2S gas emissions.
So they had some.
That a mobile monitor, yes.
We have some experts in the back of the room who saw
We
that.
do, yes.
Ms. Donna Nichols, our health director, has actually invited some folks that have actually done some testing for us.
Okay.
On behalf of the city. And maybe they might give the lights a little bit of, I can photo of what they do.
Donna, do you want to add something about the monitor?
It might be beneficial.
Happy to introduce our guest here this evening. All of you may know James Aldount with our Office of Emergency Management here in the county. To his immediate right is Dr. Jason Mose, who is with Texas A&M, the U.S. Center for Rural Health Emergency Preparedness. It's a long title. And Dr. Angela Clendenin, who is also with that particular office and does a phenomenal job of working with our students. The other person that I truly want to introduce is this young lady. Her name is Ruby Hernandez. Ruby has actually done some air quality testing for us and did some work this past spring with the Bastrop County Public Health Department and did some work around what is in the air. And so, Ruby, would you like to talk a little bit about some of those findings?
Yes. So I know everybody has a lot of questions about this, but we actually do have a gas monitor. It's a backpack. That's kind of the best way to explain it. You'll Ghostbusters every time I put it on. It's small, practical. You can carry it anywhere, go into confined spaces even with it. But it's one of those instruments that Texas A&M is very blessed to have, right? Because we can actually go out to the field and test on site and have recordings, these gas emissions or any chemical really that you can think of other than your noble gases we refer to. But other than that, any, emission out there that you might think, is in the refinery, we can test for it. And that was kind of a project for this summer and in the spring as well. So I did some sampling across Bastrop County through the Darling refinery as well. We went ahead and did a couple, I want to say they were trying to, if I remember correctly, upwind, downwind as well, going as far even as to like a couple miles, more than 5 miles from the rendering time even to where residential homes are, because that's where we live, right? That's where we are. So we just wanted to kind of get an understanding of what we were finding, and we did find some of these gases out there. However, as far as like my experience and just my understanding as well, all of them did fall within those guidelines. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So they are out there, which is why you can probably smell them. Some of them were right on the limit, but everything seems to be that permissible and acceptable.
Is the data online?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Yeah, not yet. We are going to, and we're hoping to have community meetings pretty soon as well. But yeah, I just want to invite y'all to continue to report as well. You bring it on our end with the public health department for Bastrop, because it helps me. It helps you come to the community and sample for y'all.
Yeah, we're very blessed to have this young woman who has agreed to come and help us. And Commissioner Glass and Commissioner Carmack have said to us, bring Ms. Hernandez into the community and let us do some air quality testing.
So are y'all doing the testing during the day or day and night? And the reason I'm asking is this may have nothing to do with it, but I was in the Merchant Marines for 40 years. In the beginning, where we didn't have satellite tracking. Working in the engine room, we were told, do not pump the bilges out completely, you'll leave an oil slick. At night, pump the bilges out, because by the time somebody notices an oil slick, we'll be 200 miles away. So are they not running the scrubbers at night, or are they working at night, or are they just running the scrubbers during the day, where the big wigs and the whatever that TCEQ are out about, and after everybody goes home and the big wigs at the plant go home, cut the scrubbers off, we don't have to spend that kind of money running those, so cut it off, and the smell just goes out everywhere, because I don't, at my house, I really don't smell it during the day, but I can smell it just about every night.
No, that's right there. And again, what am I breathing when I go out late at night and I smell? Every Saturday morning. Yeah, friends over, or babies or elderly.
I'm just curious, when camps are in such close proximity, certainly they're being affected by this as well. Has anybody reached out to their leadership to inquire about the impact that, on their operations out there?
It's a Texas National Guard, right adjacent.
Yeah, I mean, it's like right there, it's between Elgin and.
Yeah. That's part of my purview. I'm in the Texas Military Department. Camp is one of my purviews.
I haven't been in touch with them, but I'm happy if somebody has a contact. Okay.
Could we put signs up with the QR codes and say, here so you can report it to residents?
Yeah.
What kind of violation does it have to take to shut them down?
It takes a lot, honestly, to have the TCEQ shut a facility down. It's rare, very rare. And so even though they violate their permit, Adrian and I spoke today to the TCEQ about a very large facility that failed to get a permit at all and did not have a federal operating permit. This is a state level permit that Darlene has. This is a federal operating permit that this facility needed. They haven't had one for a year, and the TCEQ is still letting them operate. That gives you any understanding or context as to what it's going to take to get there.
So we filed a lawsuit against them,
That is
or not
always, yes,
enforcing it?
that is always an avenue available to you, yes. But as I've spoken to the council member about, Darlene is a $4 billion corporation, and they have, a legal team that can waste a community-funded legal team's time until they run out of money, unfortunately. Enforcement with the TCEQ is not easy, but it is accountability. And so if you can continue to send them to enforcement, and my understanding of this issue has been, the TCEQ will get involved, and you'll smell it really bad in the summer, and then it sort of, dips off when the weather changes, and they go about doing whatever they're doing, and it's not a problem anymore because the smell doesn't travel as far because it's not as hot, and the weather conditions aren't as favorable to spreading the smell. Community, sentiment about it it goes down a little bit, less complaints, less TCEQ action, and then the spring comes, and people are like, hey, you still haven't resolved that issue, what's the deal? And so what we would encourage is that we continue this momentum that the community has created. Getting 5 violations against a company that's already in enforcement, that's not small. That's not nothing. And so that should at least let you know the TCEQ understands that this is an issue. It is an issue that we will continue to talk about to commissioners. And I would also invite you, there is a public input opportunity once a month at the TCEQ Commissioners Agenda meeting. Again, I'm happy to provide you talking points so that you can go in there and let them know. Oftentimes they make rules and they make decisions and they don't hear from the public about those rules or decisions. So they fined Darlene $40,000 and sent them on their way, and this continues to be an issue. They don't know that. So this community meeting is a step in that direction so that y'all can stay informed on how to remain engaged. Yes, ma'am.
So is that something that you all could organize and let us know the date where we all show up the same day for?
Absolutely. You can either go to Austin or you can appear virtually, and it's the same effect. So yes,
Something that you all organize?
for sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's,
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add, so on July 9th, when they kind of officially made the $40,000 fine, me, Corbett, Steven, Ben,
Yeah.
Ellis, at least 4 of us spoke. And I will say, and we all spoke remotely, so it was very convenient. We didn't have to drive into Austin. We spoke remotely, and I think the commissioners were all a little taken aback. Because I think usually it's pretty crickets, right? There's not a lot of folks, and the fact that 4 people all of a sudden and a council person are saying, hey, this has got to stop. I think that really caught their attention. And so again, as Catherine said, my goal is that this meeting is kind of the start of something. We have a wonderful opportunity with the permit now being open. And so I'm going to be working with Public Citizen to get a public hearing. And I've got other ideas too, but I also want to make sure you guys have enough time to ask your questions.
Where's more bothers to everybody.
Oh, right.
Because information is going so fast everywhere.
And it's probably true that when Darling opened in the 1950s, they didn't have any neighbors, and that they probably weren't very few neighbors, and that the community grew up around them, and that's fine. They're still not allowed to create odors past their property line. That's the permit, yes, sir.
So they're not doing what they're doing at that facility. What's going on with other facilities in their community?
Google Darling, no.
Yeah.
Google Darling, no. It's a problem in other states, in other communities in Texas. It is an ongoing and known issue, and Darling has the financial resources to invest in the technology and upgrade the plants and fix the issue. And so
They're doing that elsewhere, just not here.
they have done it elsewhere, and there was a community, I think, that initiated a civil suit, and the city and the state environmental agency helped them to arrive at the conclusion they needed to invest in some better equipment and, resolve the issue.
They don't want to invest until they're happy.
I'm sorry, sir, yes, that is, yeah, your question.
Sort of like that, I was gonna ask that about, you said 1950, I'm a local attorney as well, I apologize for trying to do something on the rest, I don't know what it would be, but a friend of mine from Bastrop, who's lived in Bastrop forever, and is older than I, told me that, who has standing to do anything, and with odors and stuff, we all are limited, but he told me, I don't know if it's true or not, according to whether you know this, that people who have houses that predate Darling have a better standing, so to speak, to make complaints, and they have, for whatever the weird, laws, double I to A, B, C, all the way down, that if someone lives in a home, and I think it's either a subsequent owner who lives in that home that predates Darling in it, then you can step in and have more standing, so to speak. I don't know if that's true, are you aware of anything like that?
I'm not aware of anything like that, but again, I'm not an environmental
He just told me
attorney.
to try to round up some people who live in old houses and Bastrop and stuff like that.
Well, I think anybody who smells it is a vested
I'm not aware
party.
of anybody having two, one person, 2 votes versus.
No.
So filing a class action suit is not going where you're saying you would run out of resources before we get going.
I think that you would have the opportunity to potentially mediate a solution. Maybe they would want to sit down at a table with you. We're gonna try to get them to sit down. We're gonna try to get Darling to sit down with the councilwoman and say, look, we want you to be a good neighbor. What are some things that, what are some things that you're doing so that we can share with the community and ensure that something is continuing to happen and that you're not just waiting for the outrage to die down, but that there are actual solutions that are being implemented. So that's the first step. We're not there yet. Yeah. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
So my understanding is this has been going on, like complaints have been coming in since like 2003. So complaining is great, but also why haven't we escalated fines per their permit to I think it goes up to a maximum 25,000 or 40,000 a day for repeat offenders. So they're clearly repeat offenders. I don't think we necessarily need a bunch of data to say that they're creating nuisance odors. I mean, everybody here is complaining about the nuisance odors. That's pretty clear. So why don't we add higher fines at this time? And then what is it gonna take to get there?
So one of the things that Public Citizen has weighed in on several times is the way that the TCEQ fines companies, especially multi-billion-dollar companies, and especially multi-billion-dollar repeat offender companies, right? And so the TCEQ just recently updated the way that it ranks compliance, and that is a big factor in how companies who get sent to enforcement are fined. So if you look at this agreed order, there's actually a penalty calculation worksheet that is attached to it. And it shows you how the TCEQ arrived at the fine that they arrived at and how many discounts they gave to Darling for acting in good faith or saying that they were going to conduct an audit, for example, or, they don't have the exact same violation. Yeah, they have previous violations, but it's not the same violation, so they're not going to get dinged for the repeat violation. So there are certain factors that are written into the law that the TCEQ operates by and says, this is how we calculate your penalty. That's obviously something that you can comment about when you do get the opportunity, when you take the opportunity to comment to the TCEQ. The issue here is that they have to go back to enforcement for the TCEQ to be able to fine them again. The only way that they're going to get to enforcement is if y'all keep complaining, and the investigation fines.
And that's what I'm saying, like, people have been complaining since they're 3, and this has this type of escalation you're talking about hasn't happened.
Right.
And so, like, I'm sorry, but I'm like starting to lose faith that will ever happen, and in our regulators for being able to regulate and enforce permits.
It's incredibly frustrating, and trust me, I don't work for the TCEQ.
No,
In fact, my role is to hold them accountable, and that is one of the things that we are trying to hold them accountable to. If you have a corporation, you should fine them the maximum amount. You should increase the maximum amount. You should repeat violator. Increase the fines, all of those things that you're saying, because that makes sense to you and it makes sense to me. But TCEQ is historically very pro-industry, very pro-business.
Pro-business, are they taking into account property losses and property value losses and impacts for local businesses? Like, can you have a Airbnb next to this thing? No.
Right.
And then, like, I don't have $4 billion, but, like, I'm being economically affected.
Absolutely. And their right to operate is not greater than your right to enjoy your property, right? And so these are the things that the TCEQ needs to hear from you.
Well, how are they even hearing that?
Well, I think to answer your question, I mean, again, I've only been in Elgin since 2018. But I don't know if there was a concerted, organized effort. It sounds like people had been, submitting complaints and it was dispersed, again, the seasonality of it. And again, what my goal is here is to get everybody kind of signed up and to keep you informed for opportunities where we can continue to demand that they stop polluting our air and that TCEQ is holding them accountable. And that's going to take, I think, continued effort.
We're going
Griffin's been out there for 50 years. Darling has 250 facilities in 17 countries. They should be able to do auto control in their sleep.
Yes.
So,
yes.
This is me personally, I don't think they're very sincere about their efforts.
Right.
If you look at the method, if you look what they've done, it's basically a Band-Aid on an overloaded plant. So I think we need to kick it up to the next level. That's just my view.
And then I could have sworn we were talking about that there was talk that they were going to move the cage. Of course, the paid community went, what the? I assume that that's not happening. And kind of like the TCEQ thing too. I mean, I've been in Texas and dealt with, I have a husband who's dealt with TCEQ before, and most people I know who are conscientious no longer work for TCEQ. Is that true? Yes, she can't say that, but the people who work for the consumer, this is what I've seen, and conscientious and wanted to make it work right for us, they didn't work there. Because they are business friendly. They couldn't care less about us.
But also some of the people from the TCEQ now have positions at Darling. So former employees from TCEQ have positions at
I think it's just a giant fan and blow it all over Elon's place.
So the question is, how is the TCEQ managed, governed, who has the TCEQ? The TCEQ is a state agency, the head of all state agencies is the governor, right? The TCEQ is appointed 3 commissioners by the governor. And so right now, we have 3 commissioners, one is about to leave, we have 2, we don't know who the third one is, maybe next. And they make decisions for the agency, but there is also a certain level of autonomy that the executive director of the agency, who reports to those commissioners, has to create and implement these enforcement policies that are not quite favorable. So there's a little bit of authority, at every level of the TCQ, and ultimately, the governor is responsible for the agency. So here it is.
Part of the issue, as I understand it, Elijah Gandy is one of the people at TCEQ.
Yes.
He has to be on site with a backpack and he has to camp out there for a period of time to document this. I like what I heard about maybe there are some backpacks we can get our hands on that can get that, because if you have to have an investigator on site, that's part of the problem as well.
Yeah. I think that the trouble with the TCQ is that Darling has not been able to identify where the smell is coming from. And so when the TCEQ responds, they respond to the area where they received the complaint, and they see if they can also smell it, right? They go to the property, they say, hey, we're having a smell, I'm smelling it right now, can I come on site, I'm coming on site to investigate, right? And so that's a little bit of the challenge. So when I heard Darling speak to the TCEQ, because the commissioners were pretty straightforward with them. Why does it smell? What is the issue here? They said, we've updated this part of the system, and then we updated that part of the system, and that didn't work. And so now we've hired a consultant to help us identify what's next. What do we do next? So if there's another part of the system that we need to update, then they're going to tell us that, and we don't, it's a question mark, we don't know when that update will result in either it's resolved or, move on to the next thing that they're trying to troubleshoot to resolve. But when the gentleman spoke, he said, it's a wastewater issue, right? So we know the nature of the odor, we know that we know the nature of the facility and that it's smelly, but I think definitively the TCEQ needs to be on site, and they need to be able to smell it when you're smelling it at the intensity that you're smelling it at. So the more frequently that we're submitting these investigation requests or complaints, the more often they're going to go out there. So this is a tool for y'all.
Would it be helpful if you had just like a really simple, we should continue to submit complaints to TCEQ, yes, but I feel like I have a strong feeling about what it is, and it's certain times of day and the humidity and stuff, and I feel like if people were able to quickly, I could put together a GIS app where someone could just say I'm smelling it now. And I think if you can start to pinpoint the times of day that it's happening, that can also help direct the TCEQ, because it's sunrise and sunset, right? Which is generally when the investigators are not working, and so that's part of your problem, that's where your humidity and your molecules are going to be that.
We can also talk to the TCEQ investigator and say, we would like for you to be there at sunrise.
Yeah.
We would like for you to be there at sunset.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it is both of those things that has to do with the delivery and things if we know the timing.
Go ahead.
On the form, it asks about health effects.
Yes.
To whom do those health effects get reported?
To the TCEQ.
I know, but to whom do they report those health effects?
I'm not sure that they disclose them to like a local, like a county or to anybody else, I'm not sure that they actually.
They're not coming.
They're not coming to y'all, yeah.
So then can we report that to the health department too?
Yeah, absolutely, I think that's what she's insinuating here.
I'd be happy to hear you.
Yeah, do you have a website or a card or something that you can share with folks? And if you do have a
Yes.
website or something, I will put it on the form that's already there with the links.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so we'll add that. Yes, ma'am.
I've been putting complaints in every time, you know, where you get the little, yes, we got your complaint. But they have a survey on their site.
Yes.
And if you go on the survey and you tell them everything you think they're doing wrong, they respond. I got an email that was CC'd to everybody, all of them, this is what we're doing to fix the problem. So I would suggest that you go on to the survey and give them hell, because that they don't like. You know, your complaint comes in and it's fine, no one cares. But when you, I don't know who sees that survey, but apparently it's a nerve. So I would just.
It sounds
Where is the survey?
Most,
It's right on your site. It says how to do it.
complaints, numbers of people,
No,
Darling,
no, no.
state that bothers them.
TCEQ, it's on their
Make
site.
a stink.
So how do we do it? Get that survey.
We make a stink
Tell me
back.
how they do it. They don't answer.
And we return it to you.
And I'm framing what I need to say here, realizing the shirt I'm wearing. I think some of y'all want to do more, and so I would consider Darling's reputation in the community. Darling is part of the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce. Just, I'm stating facts. Somebody had an example, had a question, can we put lawn signs out that say here to report it?
Just with that.
I mean, if you can put any kind of sign, well, I don't know about an HOA, right? Okay. But, you know, I mean, you can, there are things you can do. And I think also part of, some of y'all may have seen the Elgin Courier article that came out today about this. And, you know, Darling doesn't also want media attention. And so there are other ways to bring attention to this issue besides we can go through the channels, but then there's other things that citizens can do as well.
You know, their client is Chick-fil-A. I mean, there are large companies you go to all the time to eat their food that all that stuff with Darling. So I've been tagging them when I comment on it. Let them know, because they're the ones who pay the money.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so going off of that, you keep on saying the commissioners, so there's commissioners at TECQ.
Yes.
Okay, there's 3 that are appointed by the governor.
Yes.
Hey, what about our commissioners? What about our judges?
Yes.
How come can't they fine, can't they do something also on top of the TECQ?
If there aren't,
What about the Bastrop County solid waste seeding ordinance? Is that pertaining to that?
there would have to be a local ordinance that's being violated. And so if there are not local, yes,
I was just gonna say, you know, it might not be our local county commissioners, but you're right, there are people who should be accountable for it. And I think to the point that you made too, we're complaining, the consistency has been really helpful, but it's about bringing it to your attention through multiple angles. If one means of communication doesn't work, how do we find another? How do we get them to listen? It's a $4 billion company. This isn't only happening $4 billion down the road.
So Judge Poppy and Judge SQ can't fine them?
not unless there's some sort of local ordinance or violation that they have the authority to.
So I guess, okay, so I'm gonna throw something in ordinance. I mean, could Bastrop County enact some sort of odor, air quality ordinance?
You know, it's very difficult, and Donna might be able to speak on it. You know, what a lot of people don't realize when it comes to county governments, there's very little we can do. If there's not a state law that says we can enact an ordinance, basically, like the city, you can do what you want. If there's not a state law that says you can't, you can do, you can tell everybody to paint garage doors. You know, for an example, I mean, you can basically make it lighter, but with the county, if there's not a state law that says we can do something, we cannot enact any ordinance or do anything like that out of our purview. And that's where a lot of people don't understand the difference between the city and
So if you've got hydrogen sulfide on the outside of the fence, these are your citizens. What are the hydrogen sulfide levels inside the fence?
Oh, it's definitely going to be a safety issue.
And that
There you
includes
go.
the
Oh, shit.
That's not, yes.
Well, why don't we trigger something?
Right.
These are your citizens that are going into this facility every day.
Well, find someone that works there.
That would be willing to make.
Well, there's state law.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, sure. I mean, they're in violation of going through the process. It's
I
just
mean,
very
we can't,
long
our
process.
judges can't do that.
I imagine there's a distance that, for those who can request party status or to request a public hearing. It's usually like 500 feet or a neighboring property or maybe even a quarter mile, but do you think it'd be feasible that the city of Elgin could request party status and be granted it, or we're just too far away?
When it comes to requesting a public meeting for the permit amendment that we're talking about, if a legislator requests one on behalf of the community, the TCQ will grant it.
Oh.
You don't have to live a certain number of miles away or proximity to the facility. They would also grant one if they deemed that it had significant public interest, but that's pretty subjective to me. That doesn't say if 5 people ask or 10 people ask. So definitively, I always try to get community members to enlist the assistance of their elected officials so that they can ask on their behalf and get the public meeting. Now, what you're referring to as effective party status may come down the line if you decided to contest the permit or, take some legal action as a state administrative judge. Then they may require that, perhaps you be, a certain distance away. We'll have to look at the rule. But, that's a bridge we'll cross when
That's a really good point that you should reach out to your senator and your local representative because them reaching out to TCQ and saying my constituents are complaining about XYZ gets things moving substantially faster than.
Yeah, but certainly they already said that it's a long call.
Yeah, and I did invite a representative to the meeting who's not able to come, but my plan is after this meeting, I'm going to be following up with him and sharing this and potentially asking him to call this meeting, this public hearing.
And your senator is Charles.
I mean, can we put together a letter that has everyone's signature in here on that letter that says these are the people of Bastrop County that are upset about this, and we can continue collecting signatures, to send to our representative?
I mean, I would use the names that have been signed.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's part of why I was hoping everybody would sign in because I want to give folks updates as we move along and provide opportunities.
What about the news channels that really investigating photos? That's awesome. Their
reports have been dismissed. Their reports have been dismissed.
There have been media reports. I've read several. When I first got involved with this issue, it looks like it's been ongoing for quite some time, 2 years. It's the end of the story. There has been, negative publicity. And I think that we have a very unique opportunity with the permit amendment and the public meeting. So maybe there will be some additional media interest in that. So we'll keep keeping the media informed.
I think too, if people have any personal stories that they would like to go on the record about, Anna and I here are documentary filmmakers. We'd be more than happy to put your story down and send it to where it needs to go. So come and find us after this and talk to us.
Well, I think we need to be very cognizant of trying to amend the permit.
Right.
This is really key for us.
And when we find out what it is, because we don't know what it is at this point.
Well, we have a pretty good idea.
But when we do find out, if you're signed up to receive updates, I will email that permit amendment to you and the public input opportunity, so.
And remember, it is your Texas legislature that ties the hands of the county. Not only about this, but every single thing. Subdivisions, everybody's complaining about all the subdivisions. And the county hands are tied. They can't keep that. They can't. If somebody applies to have a new subdivision of 1,200 homes, they can't
The
stop.
last 2 sessions, I've helped sponsor with Stan Curtis, the rep there, a subdivision rule for the counties statewide. We're tracking for this county here for Bastrop. You think surrounding Travis County, right? It couldn't get out of committee.
No.
Because these developers have such strong lobbyists, they don't want us to have any authority. And so it falls on their ears every year. I mean, 2 sessions, it's trying to come out and can't get it going. So you're right, exactly. That's where it falls.
That's who we have to talk to. Your representative and your senator, they want to be reelected.
Yeah.
That's really all they care about.
And it's that time right now.
And it is that time. So you make their life hell, they just might do something for us. But if you don't, that is all they care about. They care about being reelected.
So it's a double opportunity. They're being elected right now and they're applying for the permit. Let's just say these 3 commissioners don't give them the permit. What happens then?
Continue.
It would be unique that they don't authorize. It would. I'm just to be very candid with you, if there was a deficiency, a technical deficiency with the permit, and, you know, they wanted to give Darling additional opportunities to remedy whatever issue it is to get that permit, they would grant them that additional time. If if the commissioners came out and said, you know, Darling, you're going to enforcement again, you know, and here we are again and again and again, then there are additional legal avenues that the TCEQ can take, like referring them to the Attorney General for additional civil action. But it takes a little while for an entity to get to that point because, again, the TCEQ really tries to give businesses and industry in particular every opportunity that it can to operate.
So longer than 20 years?
Yes.
That's insane.
Oh, that's been going on a lot longer.
A long time. I've been here. You've been here. Yeah.
We don't know
This has
what
been here for a long
it's not a new permit, just to clarify, it's an amendment of their existing permit, and we don't know what it is. So we'll find out soon, and we'll share that.
Catherine, it's important to note too that they just went through an amendment of their permit, which Elijah Gandhi at TCQ confirmed that when they are in this amendment period, they're basically in a loophole where they don't actually have to deal with these violations. I have that confirmed in writing basically from TCEQ. So this might just be another strategy of theirs where they amend the permit just to keep doing what they need, what they want to do.
I think they had a renewal, so they went through renewal, and now they're actually.
The renewal shows this due 2027.
Right.
That's what I saw.
Right. Yeah. So whatever we find out, we will let you know. Obviously, this is your community, this is your issue, so we're just gonna share the information and make you aware, so. Does anybody have any final questions?
That none of the TCEQ guys live anywhere.
I don't know.
Probably a pretty good assumption.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as I understand, they run 3 shifts of Darling from what on their site. And they collect and then they empty the trucks in the afternoon on the 2nd shift, and there's something that goes on the 3rd shift. I think it would be helpful when we get odor complaints or a series of odors is that they associate the process with the odors that the community is smelling at that particular time.
And again, that's why I think
That's
if I can literally by tomorrow have an app with a QR code where you could just, wherever you are, drop a point and say, I'm smelling it, because I think the more we can start to say, it's here, it's at this time, then you can associate it to the different process.
Atmosphere conditions change every day, so.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is like, we can have like, I can model where the wind flows and stuff, but you can also say it's happening at these times, that's when those delivery trucks are, like, there's a record of when all that comes in.
But you still have data before it's
Yeah, you get that on the delivery trucks.
It's when you do the cooking. It's steam over there. It's when they do it.
That truck has been gone 15 to 20 minutes and still smelling.
Yeah, big signs of people's yards, that's not more than so it smells now. But yes, I will very much.
Well, thanks again. Does anybody have any follow, any last questions or comments? I do want to say, shout out to Councilmember Gibson and Councilmember St. Pierre in the back. And we also have food here. So please, if you'd like to come grab a snack for your drive home, please do that. But again, I really appreciate everybody coming out. My hope is that we're building some momentum, and we'll be in touch with next steps.
Thank you.
I wanted to get the big old couple chairs.